Alrighty, Scarlet and Gray Almighty. It's week 12, and we are still at it. This is Emmet Brady. Welcome back to this season's final edition, at least as far as the regular season goes, of the Buckeye broadcast. And we know what's happening. There's no secret about it. It's rivalry week for a lot of different schools and conferences, but there is none bigger than the game. It's called The Game. That's a capital T and a capital G. We're gearing up for Ohio State, Michigan tomorrow in Ann Arbor. And, of course, the sad side of the whole thing, the disappointing, maybe the discouraging side, was this rather inglorious, uninspired defeat at the hands of Michigan State Spartans last weekend. I watched the whole game with my family, and we just could not believe what was going on in Columbus. So we're going to talk a little bit about that game. And today's Dama topic is very near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about muscles, how they work and when they don't. And particularly, we are going to look at the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Now, for some of you who've been following my podcast this season, you know that I was planning on doing a live webcast from Northeast Ohio on game day. And due to scheduling conflicts and some unusual circumstances for my life back here in California, I had to cancel. I'm back in California. I will be watching the game live, of course, but it's not going to be nearly as fun. I'm still going to do my best to try and support and promote the work of the MDA, of course, in athletics. And from the perspective of the Dama fitness system, it's very important that everybody understand this fantastic organization, because not only do they support muscular dystrophy, but they support a lot of different muscular and nervous system ailments. So they deserve all the support and respect that we can give them. And I'd like to say the same thing about Michigan State. They came into Columbus last weekend and punched the Buckeyes right in the chops. I don't think it was much of a fight, actually. There was definitely something wrong. All of the headline news the following day after the game and throughout the weekend, all the blabbermouths in the sports world were covering the dissent that was spoken from some of the players. Of course, probably the Buckeyes' most valuable player, Ezekiel Elliott, came out, declared his disappointment with the coaching and the play calling, which I could not disagree with him. And then he declared his eligibility for the NFL draft and didn't necessarily agree with that little maneuver. I think it's bad business. I think it might even send a signal to the NFL about Ezekiel's, maturity level maybe. Not quite sure about that. But as far as eroding the impetus for the game, I don't think it could have come at a worse time. Losing to Michigan State the way they did was ugly. The offense was barely on the field. Ezekiel only carried the ball, I think, 12 times. Total yardage. And on those 12 carries, he only rushed for 33 yards. It broke his streak. It pretty much dashed his hopes for the Heisman Trophy, which he certainly had his sights on. You can understand the disappointment in the young man's mind. Only carried the ball twice in the second half. Meanwhile, he was the guy who pretty much carried their offense in some really lackluster games. And J.T. Barrett, no big kudos to him either. Not quite sure what was going on with either the plays or the passing. I think J.T. had only about 46 total yards in passing. That's just embarrassing. It's hard to imagine a team with the potential, the Swishbone offense, that they could come into the home horseshoe, the home field, and get pushed around on both sides of the ball. The offensive line and the defensive line got absolutely manhandled by Michigan State. And I commented, before the game started, that Michigan State's running game wasn't that good. They performed really well. They hit hard. They ran north-south most of the game. It just seemed like everybody on both sides of the Buckeyes ball, the offense and their much-vaunted defense, just didn't quite want to play football. And that includes all the superstars, Von Bell, Joey Bosa, Adolphus Washington. They just got beat. And I think the other part that was most, for me, the most frustrating part is now Michigan State has stepped into a role of possibly winning the Big Ten title. They're going to have to play Iowa, which I think they're going to get creamed by Iowa. Personally, Iowa's a little more hungry and a better football team, I think. They just execute better. Connor Cook didn't even play for Michigan State, their star quarterback, which really suggests that there was trouble in paradise for the Buckeyes when two backup quarterbacks can step into the horseshoe and take care of business the way they did. Of course, the legend has been made now. The place kicker for Michigan State, who missed a field goal in the first quarter, came on with just a few seconds left and kicked the game-winning field goal. And he was psyched. He kind of knew he was going to hit it the whole time, which was pretty an interesting thing. And with all due respect for the success and the focus and the enthusiasm that Coach Urban Meyer has brought to the program, there was something that just was not clicking, both on the sidelines for him and the coaching staff, and in his post-game report, he indicated that he was not content with any of the play calling, and it makes you wonder at some point, his famous attribute, I think, his strongest attribute, is that he has always been a second-half mastermind, and the Buckeyes came out early in the second half, looked like they could take control, but just could not turn the crank on controlling the offensive or the defensive line, and that was pretty much the beginning and the end of the game. And a couple players went down with injuries. Most of them will be back next week. Sometimes when the offensive line and the defensive line doesn't flex their muscle, that is pretty much the beginning of the end of the game, especially in college football, because not too many college football players can change a game all on their own, and certainly that was the case, especially if you don't give Ezekiel Elliott the ball. Ay caramba. So speaking of flexing muscles, the DAMA fitness system is all about understanding what the muscles are in the body and how they work optimized. Most of what we focus on is the resiliency and the health of the fascia of the body. Now, how fascia and muscles work together, muscles, of course, are the fibrous tissues. You have three types of muscles in your body. You have striped, you have smooth, and then you have the cardiac muscles. Now, most of the time when we talk about flexing our muscles or building endurance, we're talking about the striped muscles. These are your biceps, your quadriceps. Your gross anatomy is moved by your muscles, and some people, I suppose, are a little more gross than others. The smooth muscles are the involuntary muscles, such as the things that line your digestive system, your digestive tract, the help you move, have a bowel movement. That's what it's all about with the smooth muscles. Often called involuntary muscles. You don't really have to think about contracting them. And then, of course, the cardiac muscles are the most endurable muscles in the body. Very special fibrous tissues. They require very special nutrients and fatty acids to make them work well. They are the ones that you know when you are out of shape, when your cardiac muscles scream, stand up and count me, pay attention to me. They lead to myocardial infarctions. But what most people don't understand is the role between the nerves, the fascia, and the muscle. And it's all about the electrical current that stimulates the muscles to contract. So if you're an athlete, if you're playing for the Buckeyes or you're a Buckeyes fan, you see a big play, you jump up from your seat. That's mostly voluntary muscles that have been spurred on by an electrical current. And there are certainly some diseases in our world that affect that quite severely. At the top of the list, and one that probably has more press and PR than just about any other muscular condition, is muscular dystrophy. It's characterized by a progressive skeletal muscle weakness, defects in the proteins themselves, and then ultimately the death of the muscle cells and tissue. And that's the part where people really suffer the most. People who get muscular dystrophy generally lose the ability over a number of years, and there is a high fatality rate with it as well. Now, muscular dystrophy can affect many parts of the body. The most severe is called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it pretty much shuts down the legs of bodies and then moves up into the central organs. There's also other forms. There's congenital, fascioscapulohumeral, myotonic, oculopharyngeal, which is the eyes and the throat, and several other kinds. It seems to predominantly affect males because it's caused by a gene mutation on the X chromosome, but it certainly can affect females as well. MD is generally inherited. There's about 33% of the people who are affected by the Duchenne muscular dystrophy have the gene for it. The dystrophin protein is found in muscle fiber membrane. This is essentially the first sign that they test for when somebody has muscular dystrophy. And the Muscular Dystrophy Association was founded by a group of concerned parents in 1950. It was renamed the MDA in the 1970s and made a nationally prominent celebrity, a cause célèbre, so to speak, by Jerry Lewis, of course, for many, many years. He hosted right up until 2010 his annual Labor Day telethon. Without speaking too much about it, I would say that some of the work that I've done in my professional career was inspired by the work that he did through the telethon to raise awareness and for the charitable cause. Now, the MDA does not just focus on muscular dystrophy, although it is its primary source of research and advocacy. It also supports amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. They also support much more complex systemic diseases such as myasthenia gravis, which is more of a neurological disease, as well as hyper and hypothyroid myopathy, core central disease, and a whole series of different disease complexes that they support and advocate on behalf of. Now, I was in conversations with the MDA of Cleveland, which, just so you know, the national organization of the MDA is then broken down into regional offices, which operate a little bit like maybe a franchise situation. They're sort of independently owned and operated, but they all follow the guidelines of the national MDA. And what we were trying to organize was a little fundraiser here during the Buckeyes romping over Michigan. That's what we're predicting, right? Because we're Buckeyes fans. And we had contacted several fire departments as well. They do the annual Fill the Boot campaign. It's an organization between, an arrangement between two organizations, the MDA and the IAFF, which is the International Association of Firefighters. And just so you know, if you are interested in supporting that fantastic organization, they have posted several news announcements this year that say they are closer than ever to finding a cause, some very compelling drug therapies that don't only reduce the symptoms, but actually help the muscles as well. And through December 31st, you can go on to mda.org, and the board of directors is going to match your gift. So for every dollar up to $125,000 donation between now and December 31st, you can match your contribution, your charitable gift to MDA. So on behalf of the Buckeye broadcast, we shall be making a donation as well. And we'll probably find out what happens tomorrow, how much we have to share. Now, as you know, I'm not a gambler. I don't place bets, and I'm not a bookie. But I love to guess the scores, and this is the big one. This is the game, just to show you how compelling this rivalry has become since the arrival of Jay Harbaugh, Coach Jim Harbaugh up in Michigan. The Wall Street Journal ran an article that says, does Ohio State want Michigan to be good? And they take a look at the history of rivalries. Ohio State has owned the Wolverines for the past 11 years. 10 out of the last 11 years, Ohio State has romped and rolled. But Harbaugh and Coach Urban Meyer have certainly played against one another in the past. Harbaugh is a former quarterback, as you know, from Michigan, and Urban Meyer has coached in two schools in Ohio, born and raised in Berea, I believe it was. So that's going to make it hot, but the other part here is they're playing for pride. There's an outside chance that both teams, one or the other, might play for the Big Ten championship game, but I think that is probably out of reach. What they want to do is dominate now for the first time since 1897. I say not the first time, but most recently. The rivalry has been going on since 1897, and the Buckeyes it's been totally one-sided so far. So who really has the advantage here? And do we want Michigan to be even better this year? I do, especially because I am a big sports fan. I like to see a good game, and I think we're geared up for one. Even though both teams are ranked in the top 20, it's really a matter of pride right now. And the Swishbone offense is having its last run. Don't think we'll see Cardale Jones tomorrow unless JT Barrett is really, really off his rocker. I think the biggest question on everyone's mind is, can the Buckeyes defensive backs, led by Von Bell, Eli Apple, Gary Conley, and Tyvis Powell, can they shut down the emergent quarterback for Michigan, Jack Ruddock? He's an old fella, a 22-year-old redshirt senior, and he's come on of late real strong. He had 10 touchdowns in the last 6 games. And it would seem that the Ohio State defensive line is up against one of the better pass blocking offensive lines in the country. Not a big surprise since the coach is Jim Harbaugh. And the receivers of Jake Butt, Jehu Chesson, they are certainly going to give the Buckeyes a run for their money. And then on the offensive side, can the Buckeyes execute? They know they can go downfield. Braxton Miller is playing in his last game in a Buckeyes uniform. Based on his shoulder problems, might be his last football game ever, which is a real tragedy. And if that happens, because he's a fantastic athlete. But really, this game's going to be close. And the problem that I have is that Michigan has some of the best special teams in the country right now, especially their field goal kicking has been very precise. Ohio State's, as you know, has been a bit of a disaster this season. The coach can't quite pick one kicker to stick with. But I'm going to have to say the man who's going to be the center of attention is this. Michigan's got a shutdown defense, but they have not seen the best running backs in the country. They will on Saturday in Ezekiel Elliott, of course. Now, how Ezekiel comes out after his surprising declarations, we will find out if he comes out to play football. But we know that he's a second-half running back, a great second-half winner, and that is going to be probably when this game is decided. I don't see either offense necessarily jumping out to a big lead early, and of course, it is the game. The advantage for the home field advantage certainly goes to Michigan, but I'm going to give the play for pride, the Buckeyes. Going to give them the point spread here, and I'm going to say that right now, that's I think the Michigan started off as a 3-point favorite. Now the bookies have them up to about a 5-point favorite, and I'm going to say that the Buckeyes are going to come out victorious tomorrow. We're looking at a final score of 21-17. 21 Ohio State, 17 Michigan, and the Buckeyes will finish in the top 10 in the nation. Now, the other big question is, will they play for the Big Ten championship? Weirder things have happened. Penn State goes up against Michigan State. It's a little bit of an imbalance, but who knows? Penn State could pull it out. The Nittany Lions have a lot of pride, and if there is a division, if there is a conference where the big upsets are happening right now, it is the Big Ten. So it could be anybody's ball game. So thanks for tuning in to the Buckeye broadcast. I'll be live on Facebook doing my live stream throughout the day, and I hope you can join me there. And you can also visit the YouTube channel to hear more about the DAMA fitness program and the whole Buckeye season. So it is always a great day to be a fan of the Scarlet and Gray. Thanks for tuning in, and go Buckeyes!